Well, Donald Trump has threatened very severe consequences for Russia if President Vladimir Putin does not agree to end the war in Ukraine after their meeting in Alaska on Friday.
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences, yes.
Meanwhile, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says there is no sign that Russia is preparing to end the war.
I told my colleagues and the United States President and my European friends that Putin doesn't want peace. He wants to occupy our country.
Joining me now is filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, good to see you as always. So look, a bit of tit for tat already in anticipation of this big meeting, but there's a lot riding on it, isn't there?
Yeah, of course, right? I mean, this is a war that has preoccupied the world for years. And continues right now with massive losses on both sides. Look, just let Trump cook, right? I mean, he does things his way. I'm out of the business of criticizing his style. It's just what he does. Yet, even though he has criticized and he has threatened Putin repeatedly, you still see the media trying to frame this as him being overly conciliatory toward Putin, right? Even the Washington Post and FT and others and CNN have literally compared this moment to Churchill, to the Munich conference, right? It's absolutely despicable. Do I have to remind everybody every single time of Trump's bona fides when it comes to defending Ukraine and fighting back against Russia, right? I mean, the greatest hits. I mean, the man, first of all, the man killed Russian soldiers in Syria, right? Literally. He drilled, baby drill, drove down energy prices across the globe, putting a serious beating on the Russian economy. He increased sanctions. He sold, the first president to sell offensive weapons, actual weapons to Ukraine. And by the way, do we not remember that Putin invaded Ukraine twice, once under Obama and once under Biden? You know which presidency he didn't invade Ukraine under? Donald Trump. So, yeah, let's just let the man do his thing and let's see what happens.
I completely agree with you. Look, you know, he knows the art of a deal. He's a professional businessman. Let's sit back, see what happens. We're all very much watching in anticipation. Now, Ami, the left-wing media, they're having a total freak out, no surprises, over Donald Trump's crime response in Washington, D.C., but some Liberals are actually backing it. Have a listen to CNN commentator S.E. Cupp, who is actually a frequent critic of Trump.
The numbers can be what they are, but also people don't feel that way. And when it comes to two things, crime and the economy, feelings don't really care about your facts. And I can't tell you how profoundly stupid it is for Democrats to get up with their facts and their figures and their charts and their graphs and say, look, you're safe. Can't you read this chart, idiots? Why are you complaining? I'm showing you right here how safe you are, so shut up and move along.
And Joe Scarborough on MSNBC, he also backed it. Army, have these Liberals finally come to their senses, do you think?
No, not at all. Yeah, you give them too much credit. Yeah, of course, there are a couple of examples of them. But overall, you continue to see this freak out across major media for this. Look, Danica, I don't know if you know, but in America, our states have state mottos on license plates, right? My favorite one is New Hampshire, live free or die. And my very close number two is DC. On their license plate says taxation without representation. Love it. Look, but it does speak to the issue we're talking about. DC, like I'm a believer. Generally, I tend to err for state rights over federal rights, right? That's just kind of the way I'm built, the way I look at the Constitution and how this U.S. Country has been built. But here's the thing. D.C. is not a state, constitutionally speaking. It's a District of Columbia. It doesn't have a vote. That's the way it is under the purview of the federal government. So Donald Trump is well within his rights to take this action in Washington, D.C. Now, that's legally. But should he? Look, D.C. is a problem. Like, I know that the media is trying to contort themselves into trying to twist the numbers and say there's no problem. Anyone who's been in D.C. knows, just from the eye test, there is a significant problem in Washington, D.C., just anecdotally. But even if you take their statistics on face value. And by the way, I don't necessarily do that because there's a lot of controversy on crime statistics in big blue cities where they actually reclassify crime as lower crimes. They don't count as the heavy crimes. But even if you took their numbers on face value, yes, there's been a bit of a dip. But today, we're talking about a city that has twice the homicide death of Bogota, Colombia, which I was there a couple of months ago. It is a horrific, terrible city. Twice the murder rate. And by the way, it has 5 times the murder rate of the U.S. in general. So there's obviously a problem there that has to be dealt with. The media refuses to acknowledge that because then you get into a larger problem of, well, who's committing the crimes and is this becoming a whole racist thing? Like they're bringing us into, they're trying, like they always do, to use race to hide what they want to do. Look, I think the problem is that it's going to increase the Democrats' motivation to try to make D.C. a state. Not difficult, but not impossible, which would give them another vote, another senator, another congressman, another 2 senators, another congressman in Congress, which obviously would be a problem. And look, solving crimes, Danica, is not really that difficult. Don't be permissive and prosecute crimes. There, we solved it.
Yeah, it's actually as simple as that. No, look, spot on. But I do agree. I don't think this means that all the lefties have come to their senses just yet. Now, look, New York City Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani has maintained a strong lead in the race. According to a recent Siena poll of registered voters, Mamdani is polling at 44%. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent, is at 25%. Curtis Sliwa at 12%, and incumbent Mayor Eric Adams sitting at 7%. What do you make of this, Ami?
It's a problem. It's a real problem. I mean, yeah, Eric Adams at 7%. That was a real shocker and a real significant problem. If you want to try to get Cuomo out, like the only way to try to even possibly win this is get Cuomo out of the race. But Cuomo now has the argument saying, I'm the one who's done, I'm more than 3 times Eric Adams. Look, here's the problem, though, even with all that, dropping out, not dropping out, it might not even make a difference. Look, I was told by your producers, Danica, that there wouldn't be math on the show, but yet you're forcing me to do math. If I add up 25, 12, and 7, that's 44%. And that's where Mamdani is. It's a dead heat if everyone dropped out except for one person, which is not happening. So that's a significant problem for New York City. New York, look, if you elect him, I live in New York. I have an apartment here, right? My kids live here. You buy the ticket, you take the ride. What can I tell you? And by the way, this thing is so crazy, right? That there were reports that Cuomo called Donald Trump asking him for help to do something here. That's how insane this has become. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens.
Oh, gosh. I mean, surely let's hope that the voters aren't that stupid to put him in there, please. Oh, well, we'll find out. Now, Ami, the woke and very tiring and tragic response to Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle ad campaign, we know it exploded on social media, but elsewhere it's a different story. According to a new survey, just 12% of Americans said that they found the campaign offensive. So, Ami, 12%, the Lizzos of the world can get stuffed.
Yeah. Okay. Look, in doing my research for this piece, yes, people, I know when you hear me, you're like, he must do no show prep at all, but I actually do. Okay. So for my show prep, I had to watch the ad a number of times. I'm sorry, this is because that's how hard I work for this show. Okay. Look, let me say this. The people who opposed it, right? Yeah, I think they're all card-carrying members of Fatties for Palestine. I think that was the only group who opposed it. Look, no, the surprising number wasn't that. Surprising number was the 12% that had no opinion. I mean, that all had to have been men whose wives were watching them as that poll was happening, okay? It's impossible not to have a view on that poll. But yet, unsurprisingly also, men overwhelmingly found that ad to be more clever than women. I'm shocked. So, yeah. No, actually, another really fascinating thing from a cultural and political perspective is, if I can be serious for a second, is that it's so interesting to watch how the dynamics flip over time. Like now, a lot of the Aside from the people calling it, neo-Nazi, right, white supremacists, forget them for a second. But a lot of people on the left are taking offense to because the over-sexualization of women is anti-feminist, right? That's kind of like a view people have taken, which is so interesting because 25 years ago, it would have been the right, the Republicans, who were saying, hey, we have a problem with this ad because it's overly sexualized. So I think it's fascinating.
I think it's really fascinating too, and you're right. I think there were a lot of women staring over their men watching that ad for sure. Now, look, US Attorney General Pam Bondi has ordered a grand jury investigation into an alleged conspiracy by the Obama administration to tie Donald Trump to Russia. Here was the president overnight.
They got this phony investigation going on, Russia, totally phony, created by Adam Shifty Schiff and Hillary Clinton and the whole group of them. And it made it very dangerous for our country because I was unable to really deal with Russia the way we should have been. I'm looking at Pam because I hope something's going to be done about it.
So, Army, Russiagate is back.
Yeah, it really, Russiagate, Russia, the Russia hoax, one of the great stains on our American intelligence community. And I think they'll be paying the price for a long time. Look, the only proof we have, actual proof of collusion with Russia on tape, is when Obama and Medvedev, I forgot to pronounce the lapdog of Putin's name, when he took that 1 4-year term because he had to try to Putin make it legal for him to continue his dictatorship, was when the Russian leader and Obama had an off-mic meeting, it was actually on a hot mic, and he leaned into him and said, hey, just give me a little bit of negotiating maneuver room for this missile defense thing. Once I win the election, we'll be good. That's the only collusion with Russia I've actually seen proof of. The president had a really great point, and so true, about how this Russia hoax did have an effect on foreign policy. Any move he would make in terms of trying to get negotiating power with Russia, trying to say, hey, invite him to the White House, or say, hey, we'll use a carrot of decreasing sanctions if you do X, Y, or Z. He was, I'm sure, conscious of looking overly conciliatory to Putin because of that. It really boxed him in foreign policy-wise. Ironically, it actually may have made him tougher on Russia because of that. So there were probably maybe some positive downstream effects. But yeah, that kind of, that politicization of intelligence really had an effect on foreign policy. And that's, I think, to the detriment of this country and to the way we view the intelligence establishment.
Yeah, look, no doubt about it. Be interesting to see what comes out of it. Ami Horowitz, always great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.